usually give this thing a second to run because I don't know why, but for some reason here lately it's been cutting out on my audio, and it just cuts the whole thing out. Hey everybody, and welcome to the channel this evening. For those that was in the live stream night before last, I told everyone that I would be coming up to Virginia to visit with my friend Tony Jones. My friend, it's always a pleasure.
How you doing?
And so here's the deal. We're going to share with you some experiences we've had. We're going to talk about things that we always end up having a conversation about off-grid living and etc. because so many people bring the questions either to the folks that sell the parts or the folks that bolt it down. We get a lot of repetitive situations that people get into that we think will be helpful to share. And then I want Tony to definitely take the helm and show you some cool stuff, because what you have right here is something people ask all the time about, is lithium. All right, this is a lithium 100 amp hour battery right here. It only weighs like 30 something pounds. So if you want to build your own Tesla truck, by all means buy some. And it's cooking right now a water heater element in a coffee mug, and we'll show you that cool stuff here in just a little bit. But real quickly, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Tony to share one. We'll just swap some experiences here and some funny tales too from the field. But this is the websites if you want to check this out. You want to get off-grid parts, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, or if you want us to bolt you down. 7 years strong working with Hurricane Wind Power. You can check them out at hurricanewindpower.com. If you can read my scribbles on the board. And if you want us to come out and bolt you down, as of this year, November and December is still open. Otherwise, it's next year. I'll see you. Offgridcontracting.com. You can check us out, guys. So the first experience, I'm gonna turn over the helm and let Tony share, because I think he had one that was on his mind earlier. I think about lights and fans.
Lights and fans, right.
And then I'll share with you, guys. People always, let's face it, in life, things always come down to the bottom dollar is money. And so I've got you two funny stories to share about what it really breaks down with money and the cost of doing things. But I want to go ahead and let Tony go ahead and fire away there, and we'll have story time, and then guys, at the end, Tony will share with you some new stuff coming out.
All right, so we were talking about system sizing a few minutes ago, and I will get there in a minute, but I kind of have a tendency to ramble and go all over the place. So just a little bit about myself. If you don't know me, I'm Anthony Jones. I own Hurricane Wind Power. And if it was today, we'd probably be Hurricane Solar. But I mean, basically, we sell every nut, bolt, and screw related to renewable energy. We develop products. And we try to make people's world a better place. And we're not goal-oriented towards trying to be, necessarily the biggest company out there, out in the world. But when you call here, we're trying to provide good service, knowledgeable advice, and when it's appropriate, sell you good stuff, and when it's not, give you reasonable expectations. I'm in the business of reasonable expectations, and what is realistic and what isn't. So I think one of the things we were talking about a little bit ago is about system sizing, and one of the things is when we're talking about getting together a system, the more information that a customer is able to give technical, I do technical sales. So when we size a system in technical sales, I mean, the more information that we have to go off of, the better you are. I mean, otherwise, you could end up not getting your needs met. And I mean, that's not what we want to do. So just a little bit about myself. I started out with renewable energy. My background, I worked in state probation and parole for like 13 years. My master's degree is in criminal justice, but I have an off-grid property, and I started out doing this stuff probably about 15 years ago. I was trying to just build a wind turbine at that point in time, and I found out that, based on the the stuff that I found on the internet, I kept trying to, everything, and I kept putting stuff up and taking stuff down, and none of it seemed to work like they would say it would, or just not very successful. So through trial and error, we ended up just developing our own wind turbines, and then we've evolved well past that. I mean, I still love small wind turbines. Don't necessarily like everything in the market, but so is business and so is life. But just a little bit about myself in those last 15 years. I mean, when I see people coming on to YouTube and reading specs and acting like they know everything, and I'm not that guy at all. As a matter of fact, probably a couple times a week, I'll have a very knowledgeable customer, and I still, doctors practice medicine, or we're practicing renewable energy. So, I'm not above, continuing to learn and expanding that knowledge base, and that's what we're really committed to here. I think the tendency when we start out wanting to get a system, I just start with, before we tell stories about other people, I want to tell on myself. I think the first thing that I did was I ran out and I bought the biggest, cheapest modified sine wave inverter in 12 volt. I started out with 12 volt, and I bought the biggest, cheapest modified sine wave inverter that I could find on eBay, as cheap as I could. Does that sound familiar?
I've done stuff like that in the past, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a jury rig.
Right, okay. So, we did that, and then you find things out like when you turn on your miter saw, it starts to make noises that you're not familiar with it making. That doesn't sound right.
Cables cook. And
yeah, just things don't sound right when it's running. When I bought batteries, I went to the Sam's Club, and I bought a marine battery because I didn't know any battery. I mean, some of you right now are going, what's he talking about? So, that marine deep cycle battery you get, it's made to start things, and it's made to deep cycle as well. So, I mean, it does, like a lot of things in life, they're engineered to do two things, right? So, as a result, they don't do anything great. So we were one of the first jobs you were working on. I went out, learned through trial and error that, you had there were yellow top Optima batteries, and that battery seemed to have a lot more kick to it than my bigger battery did at the time. So
yeah, that's the dual purpose one, I think it was. Yeah.
That yellow top Optima. So I mean, all I'm saying is we're certainly not infallible, and I mean, I've learned through trial and error for 15 years, and I've made a lot of mistakes on the way, and we're getting into a place where I'll step back and I'll say this. I mean, some folks will come on and tell you that their company is the only company that you can buy parts from, and they're the greatest, and everybody else stinks. And I mean, that's not true either. There's you can buy your parts from anywhere. There's several good companies out there. I'm not getting into naming names and saying who's good and who's bad, and we're not here for that today. But yeah, my commitment is to give people reasonable expectations and to help you and make your life a better place than before you found me. So I think that's what Lucas does, and I think partnering with him over the years, that's been a strong point, because we're both committed to getting things right for people. But what I think we were talking about system sizing a little bit ago, and I was starting to tell you about having as much information to give us before we start down the pathway of trying to size the system. And when I say this, I'm certainly not talking bad about the person or the customer, because the customer in this case happens to be a good friend of mine. But they called, and actually I do business with them, and I called them. They told me they wanted a system, and they told me their requirements was that they needed to run a couple fans and a couple lights. So based on that, we did some watt-hour calculation and, tried to figure out what would be applicable. So we ordered the parts, and then when we got in, we went out to the job site, and, I'm a simple guy. So, to me, I don't know what you guys think. What do you think of when I'm trying to run a couple fans? What do you think of?
Oh, just regular ceiling fans. I don't know, it's like 12-inch blades or something, I think.
I'm thinking about a box fan.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that too.
Kmart box fan, I'm thinking about 60 watts. What do you?
Or a window for circulating fan or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So we show up, and they've got a barn that probably cost more than my home, that had stone masonry work, halfway up, and it had the 12 recessed lights. It had, and the two fans were the big ass ceiling fans with the 3/4 horsepower motor, and there was a well pump that we didn't know about, and there was, am I missing anything?
Oh man, it was.
There was a lot of stuff.
It was something that went down too with the generator people. They had a little hiccup for a minute, swapping that out on the timer too. But yeah, it turned out that like what you would visualize as a fan, it was
Right.
an industrial fan, and it's one of those things where. If you look in the dictionary, I think what Tony's saying is like if you look in the dictionary and a certain word has a certain meaning, that can be a broader sense sometimes too. And like when somebody said fan, there's a baby fan, and then there's the industrial building fan, and that's kind of the monstrosity that we walked into on that one.
Thus, the specificity requirement. It's helpful. The more information you come with, the better off we are.
Yeah. Knowledge is everything. I mean, the more we know. I just left Boone, North Carolina today to come over and visit with Tony, and when looking at that situation, what turned out was going to be, on paper might look like a lot, actually ended up not being needed so much, and then the lady could actually use 30 amps of that excess service over for another tiny house instead of the yurt. So I mean, it's the more information. I think that's where people don't understand the value of the more you know, the better you are that you save. Ultimately, I mean, it can be
Sure.
financial savings on the back end. Because some people's overbought for their system, and they may have bought from Tony, they may have bought from somebody else, and then they've called us to work, and we've showed up, and here's this whole sea of parts, and they've spent thousands of dollars that didn't need to be spent, or they didn't buy the right things, and now they're spending even more. So I mean, it's just the more knowledge base you have on this stuff, the world of difference.
Undersizing battery banks, big problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think people consider the fact that one day's run time is what a lot of people standardize their battery bank off of. Now, that's not bad because at the end of the day, if you have generator service to back it up, or you have other means, that's not so bad. But some people don't even put a day's worth of backup power. In some situations, you get into that, like with the tiny house and stuff like that, you're limited in space. And so there's a lot of different situations, but like Tony said, battery bank's huge. You just can't never seem to have enough batteries.
Or let me just drop this. This is a strategy, and I don't know. You tell me. Where the strategies that you employ. It's a balancing act when you're designing a system. So I'm not just telling you that to say buy as many batteries as possible. But, if you're off grid and you get an inverter charger, I mean, you can figure out what I generally do is, what do you think about depth of discharge? When you like to set something up, where you like to be at?
I mean, a big thing that's pointed out to people in the field is we try to stay 50%, because the length of life on a battery, I mean, like this is not the battery in particular we're talking about on the table right now, but
Because you can discharge that thing about all the way.
yeah, I mean, this is like your
80%
cell
if you wanna-
phone.
Yeah, if you wanna be nice to it, you can take it down to 80, but when we're in the lead acid arena or the sealed AGM, if I have looked at hundreds of batteries and cycle charts, so, what I see correlating pretty much across the board is when when you get past 50%, how many cycles it just drastically goes down. So I mean, like, at 50%, yeah, and at the same time, when you see you read 8 to 10 years on a battery, that's in flow. That's basically if you're using, some of the grid tie interactive stuff, when it's backfeeding and you're basically just using your battery bank as a capacitor,
Kind of a buffer.
it stays up there at 80% all the time unless you have an occasional power outage. And, in that case, you might get 8 or 10 years out of batteries, but, that's, that battery that we source, that has 3,000 cycles at 50% depth of discharge, that thing, well, you have to lift them out. You tell me about it.
Oh, they're like 180-pound battery or more, and the thing about it is you just run the numbers on it. Me and Tony both
I
are
think that
numbers
one's
people.
about 120. Is it one?
No, it's 160. Yeah, it's
Okay.
oh, it's a beast.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a 2
See, I was
lift
underselling it.
thing. Yeah, it's thick. I mean, there's some serious plates in it. But the thing about it is we're numbers people, and if you add that up, we've talked about this multiple times, that it's one of those deals where you use a battery like that. If you're very careful in selecting your battery, you can drive that thing like you stole it with that 6-year warranty, or you can take it real easy with that 50% depth of discharge, and you may get 8, 9 years out of it, maybe a decade. And people will be like, "You're lying on here, Luke." Well, I actually can tell you a battery the step down from that's a nanocarbon, and we've actually installed those. Many
That one
customers
had a
buy.
3-year warranty, and I mean, they've been running.
Oh yeah, they last a long time. And there was actually a gentleman that was a Seventh-day Adventist. He had a really nice put together off-grid property, and he passed away. And a friend of mine purchased that property, and now those batteries that are there that are still in operation even after the renovations and add-on that we done to that, they're running it probably a decade plus now. And it's like that's real time, real results in the field that you can see. Without abusing the stuff, but actually just regular use of discharge. So, I mean, you net meter this stuff out, you can really get a lifespan out of it. But the thing is you got to really be selective of what you buy and how you put it together, because, like I said, some people spend too much and oversize the system, and now it's just sitting there. Some people don't put enough in, and you get that disappointment factor, and then the phone rings and you're asking somebody like me to come out and tweak it or whatever. And real quick, while it's on my mind, something I know me and Tony's talked about multiple times is I've seen 2 instances in probably a year and a half's time frame that a lot of you folks out there, you want to go off grid. And it may not be me that you call to work for you, but you'll call somebody and you will get a quote. A lot of times they won't line item everything out. They won't put the labor. They can't even give you a set rate on labor. They'll just give you a quote. And I have done a job for a customer in out west. I'll just leave this as open as I can. The customer told me toward the end of the install that one of their quotes they got was $300,000. By the time they purchased their parts from Tony, and by the time I worked for them, they were just over $100,000. You might be like, "Well, that's still a ton of money." Well, what you got to understand is that's running a whole farm off grid, multiple houses, barns, equipment, and we can just keep going, going, going. I mean, it was it needed it. It had to have it. And there's some things that also powered I can't talk about for privacy. But
Are we talking about the one with 6,000 kilowatt hour bill?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then a recent example, I was working for a customer on an island, and they told me, following the work, toward the end there, because I try not to pry on people's personal life, but I like to get a feel for where we're at in our niche in the market. And the customer, when we worked for him, I think our labor bill was $14,000. The other company just one company an example. Not even the bill for labor. This is not the labor bill. This is just a function that they were going to have to do to just move material from the bank onto a barge and over to the other side and put it off was $100,000 alone. Now let that one soak in and simmer for a minute. This is the stuff that we've seen for going on almost now a decade out in the field. There's just so many stories that can be shared with people. And the thing is going off grid is not out of reach. It's one of those things where you can do a little alone and compartmentalize and continue to build. And we've almost built a system nowadays that can be put in almost like Lego blocks. You want to tell them about the OTG board idea that we came up with years ago?
Well, I didn't finish
Oh, I'm
talking
sorry.
about, wasn't you, I forgot what I was talking about. We were talking about the batteries and, not trying to oversell batteries. One of the strategies that you can use, we were talking about inverter chargers, is that, if you can't afford, enough batteries and you happen to have a backup generator, we were talking about not going below 50% depth of discharge. So if your solar doesn't get through the night, everything can kind of be set up automated with an auto gen start. The thing fires up, your generator power passes through, everything's normal, and it will charge your batteries while that's going on. And then instead of having to run a generator for 24 hours, you've run a generator for a cycle, whatever the charge time on the battery is. You've done that, and then you're not spending $20,000 on batteries or something crazy. So, it's not always that. It's not one size fits all. So, that's what I
Right.
kind of wanted to get into, and I kind of forgot the path that we were on there a minute ago. But when we're talking about battery size, and using that inverter charger to, balance out how many batteries. At some point, if you buy enough batteries to get through 3 days without sunlight and don't use a backup generator, then you're gonna probably spend too much money. There's a point of diminishing returns with buying batteries. Not buying enough's not good if you got the energy to store it to get through the night, but at the same point, there's no reason to, unless you expect the sun to go out for a long time. It's on a case-by-case basis, but that's just one of the strategies, using the inverter chargers. A lot of people out there that we're talking to may know all about that stuff, but, you talk to a lot of people. A lot of people that you talk to, do they know that you get the inverter and the charger in the same unit?
No, that's something that a lot of people aren't aware of, is that in a lot of inverters nowadays, they do, if you get an inverter charger, as opposed to just an inverter, you can actually put power energy back into your battery bank through the same unit that you're taking power out, and you can charge that using utility power, you can charge that using a generator source, etc. That's a game changer right there. And hey, everybody, if people's got questions later, we'll field some questions too. I'm watching the comments, sorry. I'm just from a distance today trying to keep up with the scroll feed. The thing with the inverter charger is that is a key to not having to have so many batteries, because this is the most costly thing in any install almost always. It's not the labor, it's not the solar panels, the charging system, it's none of that. You can scratch it. Sometimes, now you correct me on this one, because you write more quotes for me than I can keep up with, but the racking system for the solar array, I'd say that's the second most costly thing after batteries. As crazy as that sounds, wouldn't you think that's about right? Time you factor concrete, posts, rails, mount clips, all that stuff, it turns into a mountain of cost sometimes.
Depends. It depends, because I think you see all the parts, because you end up seeing the bill for the cement, you end up seeing the bill for the pipes. I see the bill for the rails, I see the bill for the mounting hardware, the top of pipe caps, things like that. So I think you probably, for me, the panels we've got really nice panels. And then beyond what you see on our website, we basically have everything. We're in a constant battle to keep up with stuff, and get everything listed, but if you see, if you see a panel that you want that's not on our website, we've got LG, Panasonic, Hanwha, QCell. We like the REC. I like the REC, the split.
Yeah, the Twin Peak.
And there, the bifurcated module is good with areas that you have shade. And I mean, REC did that. They were one of the first companies to do that. You see a lot of other manufacturers doing that. But I mean, it's. I don't know. I would defer back to you on that one.
Well, it seems to be that to me, and now I'm not a certified public accountant or anything like that, but
Right.
just running the numbers. I mean, batteries are obviously always number one, but I would say that the rail costs, and the reason I bring this up, I'll get to the point of why that I say this is so costly, and then I want to go back and let Tony tell you some of this stuff, because I know a lot of you guys email me on this channel, especially when it comes to off-grid stuff, and ask about lithium batteries. Well, here you go. This is the day of lithium, and he can fill you all in on it. And this also has a battery management system in it too, guys. So you can't overdose this, all right? But I'll let Tony fill you in on that. But the thing is a lot of people don't understand that mounting solar, roof cost, mounting it on existing real estate, that's the second most expensive thing. The most expensive thing's putting it on rail, these individual mounts and et cetera like that. That's the most costly thing, but the most inexpensive mount. And a lot of people's laughed at it, but I'm actually going down to Florida here to do a or to take the panels down while they do a roof remodel and then put panels back up that I done years and years ago. Not because anything's wrong with our panels or the mounting, but because the customer's just getting a new roof on their cargo container home. That cargo container home has survived, I think, 3 hurricanes, okay, in the past 4 or 5 years, and now it's finally getting another roof, and we're going to take the panels off, put them back on. But here's the kicker: how they're mounted. The deck block that Lowe's sells in Home Depot, if you see them, it looks like a cross cut in the top of a pyramid, and you put 4x4 posts in. We mount those underneath. It gives it about a 10-degree ballast mount, and then we can either put paver stone, small block at the front that's like capstone, or capstone at the front. Set on that. You have 2 large blocks in the back holding it down with masonry screws, and 2 blocks in the front. It ain't going anywhere. And the cost of mounting that, you're looking at the brackets is about $12, and the block you've got about another $15. And it is some of the cheapest, cost-effective solar panel mounting that there is out there. And some people may scoff at that. But when you actually factor the cost of doing like Iron Ridge and doing some of the very professional mounting, which I totally approve of, but when you're really looking at stuff on a budget nowadays, like Tony's bringing up about inverter charger. Sorry about that, guys. But like I was saying, inverter charger, like Tony was talking about, that saves you on the battery bank, okay? So you have to have such a massive battery bank. If you're trying to save money on mounting, there's a very affordable, effective mounting system. And and another thing, and I'm going to turn it back over to him, is this lithium. All right, the fact that you can go like 80% depth of discharge as opposed to regular batteries, that's huge. And at that point, I'm going to let Tony also show you that we're boiling water over here.
Yeah, when we started this, I took one of these. So I mean, a lot of people sell a LiPo 4 battery on the market, and we sell a LiPo 4 battery. One of the things that the point that this battery has got prismatic cells in it. So I mean that's basically your square cells. Some of the more expensive stuff, we're at $679 on this battery right now, and if you compare that to some of the other batteries on the market, there's a link on my YouTube channel to a run test where we just threw this thing in a bucket of 5-gallon bucket of water and let it run, and we heated that thing up to 160 with no insulation around it. I think we had some bubble wrap run around it, and I had an axial flux wind turbine stator core, and just threw the thing in the bucket. So, I mean, that's why my water heating elements
Yeah, guys,
rusted.
actually, let me
we're gonna
show you
have
this
to-
right here. Um, you can see right there we're boiling water. You can see the steam coming up.
That came off of the lithium battery since we've been sitting here, but
Which has been about 30 minutes now exact.
so, I mean, part of in a water heater, that'll do a lot better, and I mean, that looks like crap because, when you take, you can you can Google this, but I mean, when you take something electrical and you got a positive and a negative charge and you just throw it in a bucket of water, it's going to rust quickly. So, I mean, this is a DC load that we've used for testing.
This is ice cold.
Yeah, well, the one you need to be aware of, these have got a battery management system in it. You charge it up to 14.7 and then it cuts out. And I haven't played with that with a permanent magnet alternator, but I think what's gonna happen is when I hook that up and when it hits full charge, it's just I think it's gonna let go.
Just disconnect it.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
based
right.
on what you showed me on
Yeah,
this test module.
right.
We were testing this out with the test module too, just to kind of see how that interacts. And I think Tony's theory is going to play out. And you can check out his content on the YouTube. I'll have the link in the video after this live is up, guys. It'll probably be tomorrow if you check back, and it'll go straight over. And you got a video up of this too, also a test run on this.
Yeah, I
one.
test ran it. We sat in here and I was originally going to just run the whole thing so everybody couldn't say that we were making it up. But the cell phone on my camera actually died from 100% filming before this battery did. So it put out, we got about 1,200, I think it was close to 1,200 watt hours, which if you do 100% depth of discharge, 12 volts times 100 amp hours, that's your 1,200 watt hours. I think it was 11.8 or maybe it was 12.30, but it's something, it was.
Well, that's beyond what a normal battery would hold on to.
That's what it's supposed to do. And I mean, the battery management system in this thing is heavy duty. I mean, you can pull 100 amps off this. So, I mean, that's in 12 volt land, that's 1,000 watt inverter. So, would it pull a 2,000 watt inverter? Yeah, I've got one and I've done it, but that's beyond that's beyond what's recommended.
Yeah, the way I've been looking at this, and now, like I said, this is Tony's realm here, but one thing I've been looking at is if you look at this, I think it's great that you got this red on here. I think of Milwaukee Tools,
Yeah.
the red lithium. Shout out to Milwaukee guys. But the thing about the batteries, and like we were talking about with this test equipment, is that with lithium, if you notice this good lithium batteries, you're out on job site, you're just burning that drill up, just drill. Battery's hot. You throw it on charger, it ain't gonna go right back to charging right then. That
Right.
battery management
If you-
unit in it's gonna be like, hey, you need to chill, and then when a temp layer gets back to where it's need to, charge. And that's pretty much in the realm of kind of what I've seen here just in the time span and what he's been able to show to me too. And that's very promising, guys, because if you're a tiny house owner, can you imagine how much more storage a tiny house owner could have? Because most of them's gone during the
This
day.
guy weighs 35 pounds. Small, but 35 pounds.
You could put 4 of these for one
Right.
of the green tops, yeah.
Right, and well, we sat here and, it is what it is, it's on video, and, the 600 watt element, and you see the rolling ball.
Yeah, I want to show you this one more time, guys. I mean,
We got a
you can see the
rolling-
leads right here, and
We got a rolling ball going on this thing right now.
I mean, it's.
But,
Sorry, Tony, I chopped
Oh.
our heads off there.
it's okay, it's happened before. I'm gonna disconnect this thing before we do something silly.
But guys, if you've got questions, we're gonna be hanging out here for a bit. If you got questions and stuff, like now's one of the greatest opportunities ever to inquire if there's something you want us to share or answer. Like I said,
Oh, it comes with carrying handles.
Oh, yeah, it's got the carry handles where you can move it
Gotta
around,
get
but,
on that.
we've got, together collectively, there's 14 years, of just off-grid, with between us collectively. That's not counting, like Tony said, the many years he had prior to that, and the many, many years I worked in, electrical with three-phase PLCs, direct drive, you just name it, industrial maintenance. I got the diploma on the wall for industrial maintenance, and I don't claim to be an expert in this. Like he said, we're like a doctor's practicing medicine. We're practicing off grid and solar and wind power and et cetera, renewable energy. But something that really has occurred to me that I think cannot overly be stated to people is you don't have to be rich to be off grid. There's a saying that goes, and I can't remember who said it, and I don't take credit for this. This is not my saying, but it is so true in life. You can have it all. You just can't have it all at one time. Now, you may not have the, what's that company that makes those 4 sprayers? You seen that bathtub you go in and it's got is it Kohler? That's got all the sprayers in the wall and the shower head over
I
top.
can't afford
But,
stuff like
oh,
that.
I know, right.
Yeah.
But when the world is, in the post-Rona 19 world we're living in, would you not like to have a hot cup of coffee or a good warm bath? That's still possible. We just heated water off a little tiny battery, just one. And that's no great feat. People show this stuff on
Take the
YouTube.
link. We can heat a whole 5-gallon bucket.
Oh, yeah.
You can take 160 degrees. That's a shower, and that had no insulation.
Now, that's on that video, though,
That's
right?
on that video.
Okay, I'm sorry. There you go. 160 degree, scald yourself to death. 160 degree, 5-gallon bucket. That's enough to get a bathtub warm. So, folks, it's still possible to pump water. It's still possible to take a good bath. And you don't have to be a millionaire. I've seen installs done for mere thousands of dollars that met critical demands, like some lighting, heat up a water heater, cook some food, necessities in life. Now, when you get into the point where that you're wanting to live a luxurious life, then you can start going from the tiny house folks. What's the average on a tiny house install between us and labor? I think it usually gets to between about $10,000 and $14,000 over the past 7 years. Wouldn't you say it's about average?
It just depends. So like we were talking about this guy back here, back when we started messing around with this stuff. You got to take this stuff into context. Remember, we got a 100-watt panel. So when I started doing this, a 100-watt solar panel cost $400 or $500. Okay, and we got into when we had. You go back several years, we got all those 12-volt panels, and we're like, hey, we got 12-volt panels, yay, everybody. And then, now what you can do with a 100-watt solar panel, there's a ton of videos all over YouTube about what you can do with a 100-watt solar panel. But when you take into the AC side, the context of what you have, if you got 1,000 watts of solar, and then you're running it through a charge controller, and then you've got a DC conversion. No, I'm talking. We're going to talk. I'm going to be naughty for a minute. We're talking about kits, and we're talking about value. Okay, so you can take a bunch of C notes and catch them on fire, and you can buy one of those kits that you might see on one of those Amazon sites. Off-grid tiny home kit, and when you guys buy these 100-watt panels, and we sell 100-watt panels, and there's some companies that manufacture, and they ship them pretty good. But you got to understand, what do you reckon it costs to ship one of those?
Oh, shoot, UPS anymore. You ship a small package and it's an arm and a leg. I don't know the shipping rate. I shipped tools the other day, not to get off topic. I shipped a little box of tools the other day. It was over $100.
Okay, so you get the guys that are selling a 100-watt panel, which I don't even really try to compete in that market because there's so much junk. Okay, so you get 10 or 20 100-watt panels, and so you got your 100-watt $100 solar panel, so free shipping. Nothing is free. Okay, that's a hard fact of life. Nothing's free. So $30 of your $100 in solar is going to shipping. Then whether it's on eBay, Amazon, wherever you go, that's 10%. And then the credit card processor's 3%. And I could go on and on and on. By the time you get done, I mean, you can, if somebody's in business, I mean, they're making some money on the panel, but the point is the panels that you're getting, you're probably getting about $30 worth of solar panel by the time you get that stuff. The second thing is when you get stuff and you put it on a tiny house like you do, and it comes on a pallet and it's been strapped down, for the most part, it's not been handled I'm not gonna hate on UPS or FedEx, because I mean, both of them break things, right? So, I mean, it just depends on where you live. You know, some of the people I talk to have good luck with one. Some of the other people, hate the other one. So I'm not picking sides on that. But when you take these sales and you distribute shock through them, these bus bars across here. This one was one that we were going to import, and by the time I looked at what we were doing, it really didn't make any sense to me, because I mean, to get 1,000, we're at 1,000 watts. So I will get to my point. I swear I will. You got 1,000 watts. So most of us are in trying to run AC stuff. I mean, I know that some of the off-grid people we're talking to, run your 12-volt stuff, and whenever you can do that direct and take all the control and inversion, you're not going to probably take the control out of it, but whenever you take the inversion loss, when you have a 12-volt inverter, you got to step that power up 10 times. So there's a bigger loss on 12-volt inverter than there is a 48-volt. So likewise, when you take this midnight charge controller, that thing will handle 96 amps. So that FM80 over there will handle 80. So, you get into using one of those, you got a 12-volt system, you can put 1,000 watts on it. Now, one of those good quality MPPT controllers, that one's about 500. This one I prefer because, I mean, it comes with an arc fault protection. You can network it to your house with their remote app. It's what I talk about the arc fault.
Yeah.
It comes with the temperature sensor.
Reverse polarity protection. It's got a lot of good stuff in it.
It's a little bit more efficient. So, I mean, for me, I think it's worth, I think the price is about $100, $150 more. And the other reason, I mess with wind turbines. So, I mean, this thing has got a programmable wind track mode, which we're just, as far as wind turbines go, I told Luke before we did this, I wasn't going to talk about wind turbines, but I'm just going to, our 110-volt Hurricane XP is, I'm like not even going to get catty and talk about who, it's not a competition. I want to know who's going to come in second. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's not.
Man, y'all got some big turbines. I tried to pick one up today. Man, y'all need to open up a gym. You can make some money on it.
I'm breathing hard. I'm talking about the smaller one.
Oh, I thought you were talking about
the 110-volt XP that we got running on a wind track. I had a guy calling the other day because the thing was putting out 3,500 watts, and he needed to stiffen up the power curve to bring it down. But I mean, we're running into stuff where, and these are things that really need to be going into. A lot of people don't look at this stuff. Charge rates on batteries, Luke.
Yeah, you can only put so much over X amount of time,
Yeah. So that VMAX, that 125, I know the charge rate's 30 amps, right?
Over per hour, yeah.
Right. So when we get into 48, I got a guy with a 48-volt system. He's got, he's got something you put 30 amps in, 3,500 watts start coming in. I mean, we're running into it between the midnight program and the clipper. We're having to write resistance into it earlier, especially when you get into a high wind area, to tame the thing down. So, spent a lot of our career trying to get up to making power. Now we're trying, when you
pumping the brakes.
Well, I mean, this is like having a transmission in the thing that just supercharges the thing. When you get to, it takes some adjustment and getting everything tuned in, but once you get one of those things dialed in, if you're in an area you got 25-mile-an-hour wind, that thing will carry you through the night, and it'll haul the mail. And real happy about where that's going. I mean, we've got a few videos up, but you know, a lot of the stuff that myself and Luke do, I mean, we've got, how many out of 10 things that you do would you say you get on YouTube?
Oh, how many installs we've
10,
done?
10%?
Yeah, you know, that's a great question, Tony. Out of the installs we do, guys, and the stuff that you actually see, I get to film and put on here. I'd say that for every one install that I actually get to film, there's at least 3 that don't get to film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So, and you know, I'm gonna brag on Luke for a minute. You know, we get off the wind turbine subject. I said I wasn't gonna talk about that, but you know, we've got videos of that Midnight Classic running with 110 volt on a 24 volt system. We got one coming in from Puerto Rico where the guy that has been an installer for like 40 years just says that Vector 2.0 is eating a Bergie's lunch every night. So
That's awesome, man.
You know, nothing bad against. So I saw a Bergie up in North Carolina when I went down there a few years on the Outer Banks after Hurricane Matthew went through there. And that's a pretty big blade wind turbine, and it was still there.
Churning it out.
It didn't tear up. So I mean, that's more than I can say for what I see with a lot of folks. I'm not throwing bricks at Mike Berge, but I mean, you know, that's the videos coming in from those guys, the guys that are making 3,500 watts, and we're trying to get the thing. And you know, we rate the things at 1 kW. So that's what you're supposed to do. A lot of people it's 24-mile-an-hour wind. That's what's supposed to be on the nameplate. Nobody's doing that. And as a matter, you know, and that used to be a minor battle among the American manufacturers. The American manufacturers just need to leave one another alone, because things have just gotten crazy in the small wind world. Because I mean, like, I have to go out to eBay every once in a while. You know, if you go and you see one that it weighs 14 pounds, you know, if you see something that weighs 14 pounds on eBay that says it puts out 7,000 watts, and you do volts times amps equals watts, and it's 12 volts, and it's got 7,000 watts coming out, you're going to need 4-hour cable coming down the, you know, it's
something's not right.
It's fraud. Right. And you know, it's coming from China, and those people aren't accountable for what they advertise. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, we just a litany. You can tell in the blade size too. That's something I talk a lot about on my channel. You know, if you got something with little tiny blades on it, you know, if you've ever had a breaker bar and a rusted nut, and then you put a pipe on it, you know the relationship between the arm and putting in torque.
It's going to get more torque, absolutely.
And you have to have torque to put into a generator to get power out of it. You know, the surface area and the blade diameter. But anyway, we're back here, and I wanted to talk about Luke for a minute. You know, I think a lot of the sales calls I get, why don't you take the helm? I'm going to talk about you a minute. You do your thing. Let me get ready. I'm just going to talk about sales, and I see a lot of the questions you get about pricing. So
okay.
Take over from me. I've been running my mouth too.
No, you're fine. Guys, if you have any questions, by all means, drop it in. We'll probably wrap this here in about 10, 15 minutes. But, you know, something that I think that occurs to me more and more with, you know, passing time is that a lot of people don't know where to begin. And I think the biggest thing that you can do to help yourself is evaluate what really matters, and start right there and just ask yourself, if I wanted to be off grid and wanted to go, you know, free off grid, what really matters to me? What do I really want at the end of the day if I had nothing else? And to me, that is the greatest starting point of any venture off grid. Because now, like I said, you can have it all in life. You just can't have it all at one time. And Tony was saying something about price, and I'll say this, and then I'll give it back to him, because I talk all the time, guys. I wanted just to visit with Tony today, and because there's a lot of things that people ask about off grid, and it's nice to hear it from somebody else instead of just me talking all the time. Is when it comes to cost on things, I know one of the biggest questions people ask all the time, especially when they hit me up at Off Grid Contracting, is how much does this all real cost? And I'm going to give you the averages, because I've really been trying to run the numbers on this in the past months. If you wanted a tiny house off grid, a yurt, RV, camper, etc., the cost on that usually runs between 10 to 14, I'd say, on the averages. This is labor and material combined. And keep in mind that, like I said earlier in the video, that if you go and pull, I encourage people to go get quotes, because you're going to clean fall up off your stool, and then you're going to pick up the phone, call me, and then I got the job. It's easy for me, man. Please, by all means, go see other people, and then come see me.
You
But
just said what I was going to say about you.
oh, really?
That was part. That was part. But
I'll wrap this up quick and turn it over to Tony while he's fresh on the thought. The only other thing I would say is when it comes to small homes, log homes, cabins, it's not so much the square footage, it's the load demands, but like a medium-sized home with decent loads, you can run anywhere from low 20s to the upper 30s or early 40s. And for a mega install, like that would power multiple homes, multiple structures, almost everything you could think of on the menu. I mean, sometimes that runs anywhere from the 40 range all the way up to almost $100,000. And it's not that anybody's, dogging anybody. It's just, you're built at that point, you're building miniature substations, on your land and stuff. And so I think that's the most requested and asked thing I get all the time. And I hope that one right there, I can iron that out today for a lot of people. Now systems can be started up for a matter of thousands of dollars, but to really get to something sustainable, that's really those three breakouts.
Most of the things that you put together are modular too. So I mean, you got stuff that is stackable.
The OTG boards, if you want to tell them about that.
Well, I mean, it's you see it in a lot of Luke's install. I mean, it's just the.
Sorry, I'm gonna scroll these comments.
It's just the PV combiner box. We put the I've got the big hat channel metal that we got the big 16 gauge steel. Luke always does a good job with the conduit on those things, and then you got the 100 amp breaker going in. But I mean, it's all put together in one piece,
all grounded together,
done, to code, that's off grid. I mean, you maybe want to put in expense. Some of the DC disconnects you can get into in system shutdown tools. They're $300 and $400. So I mean, by all means, you got to research your stuff and do things to insurance and do things to code, and do all that stuff. And we're going to recommend that stuff for you. But in the context of what Luke is talking about, this is one of the things that we do. Don't bolt up junk. And the reason we don't bolt up junk is because I don't want to deal with the warranty issues. I don't want Luke to have to drive back out to a site to fix something. And I mean, with some of the products that are out there, if you bolt that stuff up, you're going to be replacing it within a couple of years. So, that gets me, and Luke's talking about cost. So, I mean, have one of those guys come out to you and start, this is how the sales pitch goes for a home. We've been on off grid, so we're talking about battery backup systems. So there's three different types of systems. But I mean, if you're out there and you're just putting solar panels on your house, I mean, obviously there's the in-phase stuff, which we sell, solar edge. I mean, there's tons of inverters where, you're just passing the DC through, converting it to AC and running it back into the grid and running down whatever load you can in your house. And in some states, there's a 1-to-1 payback rate. In other places, they don't treat you
Nickel and
so.
dime,
You know, they don't treat, I think down there in Tennessee, they don't treat you too good.
It's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's just not financially viable and worth it anymore because the electric companies, the cooperatives and stuff like that, they just want to milk you.
And for all people give people in West Virginia a hard time. I think they have a law that you pay back at 1-to-1. I'm pretty sure that's right. But I mean, we've been limiting our conversation to just battery-based systems. But I mean, there's the grid tie interactive. There's there's more than just just the off-grid. But what I was wanting to say about Luke, I mean, this is just what I see nationwide because I see other people's quotes, I see other installers' quotes, and what you see a lot is the parts bill. Well, first of all, when they come out to your house, this is what you can expect. They're going to probably show you a graph of what power costs today. Have you ever seen one of these?
I've seen a workup, kind of like what you're talking about.
Okay, and then they'll tell you that if you get and buy in it today, then you're buying in today, and then this will insulate you from the cost
Because the curve.
because of how much it's going to go up over the next 20 years. And then if you're locked in at today's rate, and then there's a 15 to 20 year payback, right? So, really what I see is the parts bill is usually about a quarter to a third of what other people are charging. So I mean, when they get into the 15 or 20 year payback period, some of these guys that are putting this stuff up, I sell parts. I'm telling you, 2/3 of that bill is the installation. You want to talk about your labor rates, or I mean, have you done that before on the channel?
I mean, we can
Missed
share.
it?
We can share that. That's a good point. So the way that we work out in the field, and you can compare this to other installers, and et cetera. We charge $1.25 a watt. That's flat labor rate. So if you put up 1,000 watts of solar, it's $1,250. It's real cut and dry. We don't have no dock fees and what's all the other junk at the car lot. All this other garbage. It's not. It's just flat rate. The only other add-ons that we charge, it's $2,000 for a tie-in of a generator to the system. That's an add-on. It's $1,000 add-on if we tie in the EMP equipment now to the OTG systems. That that's a partnership that we've worked out together on building these OTG boards through Hurricane Wind Power. We can tie those in, integrate it now. That's $1,000 add-on, and then remote monitoring for your system. That's $1,000 add-on. Otherwise, it's just a flat labor rate, and it's in. And like the job that we done in California, I think we saved the guy is almost $200,000.
What I was just going to say, I'm just going to make a blanket statement where these guys are at a 15 to 20 year payback. By the time he's able to get the parts and what we're able to do and what Luke is able to do, I mean, I would say on average, if you average it out, it's more like 5 to 10. So I mean, that's just my broad kind of analysis of what I see. And it's not one of these things where we're going out and you're going to do financing and you're going to pay this and somebody's going to agree to do that and this person's going to buy the power, and it gets convoluted, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, we try to keep it real simple out there. And guys, I know we're getting at the hour mark and we're going to wrap this up, but if you haven't checked out the guys at Hurricane Wind Power, Tony will take care of you. And I mean, they've got the products that's just coming out in the market. It's phenomenal. And anybody that's asked about the lithium batteries, here it is on the menu
I
now.
would put that battery up against the big boys. I mean, I would. You see this big old sticker across the front of it? I mean, there's no mistaking that sticker. So, if I didn't feel comfortable with where we were at, we wouldn't do that. Do you need to get to any questions?
No, I've been watching the scroll feed and trying to
Okay.
answer stuff as we go. But guys, as always, till we see you here at the channel, hope the Most High Yah Baruch and keep you, make his face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friends. In Yahushua's name.